So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah! What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, the other day, I put out a poll on the community tab saying, give me a player at a pick for the Detroit Lions in this draft so I can grade it for a video. Trades are open, but please put compensation as that would be factored into the trade. And we got quite a few responses from you subscribers, specifically talking about players that you wanted to see the Detroit Lions get and players at what value you wanted to see the Lions address positions of need. Yesterday, we went over the Twitter responses, and today I wanted to go over the YouTube responses, kind of talk about some of the players that could potentially fall, talk about some of the players that could potentially be at which pick and what the value could look like for the Detroit Lions going through the NFL draft. So we're going to start off with the Ronnie 99. And this isn't necessarily a player at a pick, but it says Tuli Tuipulotu versus Van Ness versus, I believe, Keon White is the White he is referring to as multifaceted, versatile defensive lineman picks. Now, I have all three of these players graded rounds apart. I have Lucas Van Ness as a first-round pick. I have Tuli Tuipulotu as a second-round pick, and Keon White as a third-round selection. I think that Van Ness absolutely clears the other two in just about every category you could have. I think Tuipulotu wants to play almost primarily edge in the NFL based on the fact that he's slimmed down and really has worked on the edge rushing side of his game more than anything else this offseason. And I think Keon White, I don't really quite understand the top 15 hype for Keon White. I think he's a really good athlete. I think he has the potential to be a really good player, but as of right now, I just don't see it. I just really don't see the top edge rusher that a lot of people are saying that Keon White could eventually be. And quite honestly, I don't know why he was invited to the NFL draft because I don't think he'll be a round one selection. Now, moving on to Nolan Ziegler. He says Mozzie Smith at 14 and Jack Campbell at 55 if he falls. Now, this second round, I think, would be one of the best opportunities for the Detroit Lions in the second round of this class. Mozzie Smith is a nose tackle from Michigan. He is an athletic monster. He is incredibly strong. He is incredibly hard to move in the run game. And I think he brings a little bit of pass rush versatility as well, although I don't think that's necessarily the strength of his game, especially based off the numbers. But I think you get Mozzie Smith to play the nose tackle, and then you get the flexibility to move Aleem McNeil out to the 3 tech, where he did play in games like the New York Giants and a couple other contests last year where he looked really, really good. And then, of course, you have Aleem McNeil as your other defensive tackle. And, you know, the Lions last year did run some 3 defensive tackle sets. They did run some defenses with 5 defensive linemen on the field and a 3 defensive tackle set of Aleem McNeil over the right guard, Mozzie Smith over the center, and then Isaiah Buggs over the left guard would be a really good defensive line unit. And then you have Benito Jones backing that up. You hopefully have Levi Onwuzurike returning to play as kind of a rotational pass rush specialist. It's a good young defensive line, and I think Mozzie Smith at 48 would be a really good pick, especially if they don't end up getting Jalen Carter in the first round. I think Mozzie Smith is potentially the second best value pick here at 48, again, if Jalen Carter isn't available. And then as we talked about the other day, Jack Campbell at 55 would be a steal. I think this would be an A-plus pick. I think that Jack Campbell is, if he's not the first, he's the second best linebacker in this class. I think he's the best run support linebacker. He's 6'5", incredibly good at stopping the run, is just kind of has all the fine-tuned parts of being a linebacker down pat, despite only being a collegiate football player at this point. I think he's incredibly versatile. I think he can, play in pass coverage, but it's not necessarily his strength. Again, he's more of a run-stopping linebacker. Yes, he's not the most explosive athlete as far as 40 time, but he does get out and does get to the spot on the right time at the right place. And despite what his 40 time may say, he is an athletic linebacker. He is a really good tackle machine, does read the game very well, and does get to his spot on time almost every single time. I think if Mozzie Smith is the pick at 48 and Jack Campbell is your pick at 55, I think that is a phenomenal second round for the Detroit Lions. And honestly, probably one of the best outcomes we could hope for. Now, Ronnie 99 is back saying Keanu Benton versus Shaikai Ika versus Moro Ajomo. Again, I have Keanu Benton in a tier completely above the other two. I think he is a good run supporter. I think he is a good pass rusher. And I think Keanu Benton is potentially the third best defensive tackle in this draft class, only behind Jalen Carter and Kalijah Kancey. I think Keanu Benton out of Wisconsin is a really, really good player, is available, is able to rush the passer, is able to stop the run, is able to play nose tackle or three tech, is able to get to the running back or the quarterback. I think he's a really good player. And right now, I think it's between him and Mozzie Smith for that defensive tackle three. Now, Saika Ika is a player that I think just isn't athletic enough to really be warranted as a top pick in this class. Yes, his run stopping ability, his power, his ability not to get washed out in the run game is important, just like it is for Moro Ajomo. But I think Moro Ajomo brings more pass rushing ability, brings more athleticism to the role. And I have Moro Ajomo as a late 3, early 4th round pick. And then Saika, I just don't think is going to be all that valuable in the NFL, quite honestly. Now, Grit says, get Jake Moody with the Okuda pick. I think that's a little high. I think 159 is a little bit high for a kicker, but I do like the idea of drafting Jake Moody at some point in this class, really shoring up the kicking position for a long time for the Detroit Lions. Channel member Kool-Aid and Cornbread said, haven't seen much about Tyree Wilson at 6. And I think Tyree Wilson at 6 would be a good option for the Detroit Lions. It is a player that is incredibly powerful, is really underrated, I think, with his hand usage. Doesn't have a lot of moves, but is pretty good. But is pretty good at using his hands to get around. I think is deceptively bendy, kind of the same way Aiden Hutchinson was last year, where it's like, yeah, he doesn't have elite bend like James Houston or Von Miller, but he does have the power and does kind of have some deceptive bend to get around the corner, even if it's not going to be like Myles Garrett or, again, Von Miller or James Houston or anything like that. He does have deceptively good bend to get around the edge and get to the quarterback. Now, I have Tyree Wilson, I think, exactly graded as the number 6 prospect in this class. Now, I think that if Will Anderson falls, I think he's a better pick. If Jalen Carter falls, I think he's going to be a better pick. If Anthony Richardson or CJ Stroud or Bryce Young falls, I think it's going to be a better pick. However, if those are the top 5 players off the board in any order, I think you have to go with Tyree Wilson at 6. He has position versatility, can move inside or outside, has a little bit of experience playing inside the tackle, although he's primarily an edge rusher at Texas Tech, but he has the size and has the strength to move inside on passing downs. And I think he could be a really versatile piece of this Detroit Lions defensive line. And if he is the best player left available at 6, I think that's the player you have to take. Right after him, the defensive line class kind of takes a drop off. And whereas you could potentially get the number 1 cornerback and maybe another defensive lineman at 18, I think that Tyree Wilson is going to be the best option available at 6 if those top 5 guys are no longer on the board. So I think it'd be a good pick, but again, it all depends on who those top 5 players are going to be. Now, Tajay Spears at 152. I think this is the exact range the Detroit Lions should be attacking the running back, whether that's Kenny McIntosh, whether that's Tajay Spears, whether that is Chase Brown, whether that is Deuce Vaughn, whether that is, insert running back name here. I think 152 is a good range. I think it's going to be a range where a lot of running backs are going to start coming off the board. And I think Tajay Spears would be a natural replacement for DeAndre Swift. They do a lot of things similarly well. Both of them are good receivers. Both of them are very shifty. I think both of them maybe have some health concerns at the NFL level just because they're both a little bit undersized and are definitely going to take some hits. But you draft Tajay Spears at 152. You have him as the running back 3. You could run 2 running back sets with Swift and Spears. You could have, Tajay Spears be kind of your change of pace running back. You could have him take some load off of DeAndre Swift. And when DeAndre Swift eventually does get hurt for a couple of games, you can have, I think, Tajay Spears slide in and be a really good NFL caliber receiving back while David Montgomery takes more of the inside grueling punishment that an NFL running back is going to take. I think this would be a good pick for the Detroit Lions. And I think, again, 152 is the perfect range to attack that position. Now, Caleb Mackley says Kalijah Cansey at 18. I don't think Kalijah Cansey is going to be the best option at 18, quite honestly. I think Kalijah Cansey is a pass rush specialist. I think he is somebody that has a relatively low ceiling when it comes to run stopping ability. He's not somebody that is going to stop the run very well. He's going to get after the quarterback, but he's going to be a rotational piece for the entirety of his career. And I wouldn't spend a top 20 pick on that. Right? There are probably 18 to 20 guys that are going to be full-time starters in the NFL that you can take in that 18th overall selection. And I just don't think Kalijah Cansey is one of those 20 players, whether that's going to be a potential future cornerback one, whether Lucas Van Ness somehow falls to 18, which I think is highly unlikely, but is never impossible, whether that is, some really big name player starts falling down the board. There are a lot of options I think that are better than Kalijah Cansey, and there's going to be a lot of players that can be 3-down guys, a lot of players that can be, every down players, guys that can be more impactful throughout the entirety of a game and the entirety of a season. And I just don't think Kalijah Cansey is quite there. I have him as a late first round pick. Emphasis on the late. I think he should probably be valued more in the 25 to 31 range, more so than the top 20 range where he's currently being valued. So, with all that being said, that is all I have for you guys right now. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure you go down, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. It helps the channel out a lot. And if you hit bell notifications, you make sure you never miss a Detroit Lions upload. I really enjoyed this video. If you guys enjoyed the content as well, make sure you keep putting suggestions and drafts down below. And I will, of course, continue to grade them either on Twitter or on the community tab. I think this was a lot of fun for a video, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. But with all that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.